Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as we plant up some Calla Lily bulbs. So let's go. I've been growing Calla Lilies in my garden for a few years now. They can be very expensive, so after I bought them initially, I was able to successfully lift them and overwinter them. Now, Calla Lilies are hardy in certain areas, but here where I live, New Hampshire Zone 5B, they definitely would not survive our winters in the ground. So it's very important to lift those rhizomes up and store them for the winter. I made a video showing you my process for lifting the rhizomes and how I store them. I'll be sure to add a link to that video down in the description below in case you're interested. When it comes to the right time to plant your calla lily bulbs, you want to wait until the outdoor soil temperature is about 65 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 18 degrees Celsius. However, here where I live, since it's still pretty cold at night, I want to give my rhizomes a jump start or a head start. So I'm going to be pre-sprouting them, which means just waking them up. And they're not going to be placed in the beautiful pots that I'm going to be putting them in for the summer months. They're just going to be in a shallow tray just for the sake of waking them up and getting them going. And I'm about 1 month from my average last frost date, which is May 15th. So now is a great time for me to be doing this project. And for pre-sprouting, I'm just going to be using regular potting mix, and it's potting mix that I had in other window boxes from last year. I'm just going to be reusing that potting mix. There's not a lot of nutrients in this potting mix, but the rhizomes don't need it right now because all we're trying to do is just wake them up. And this potting mix is already pretty wet, so I'm not going to be adding any additional water. And that's important. I don't want to rot my rhizomes. So I will just be potting them up today. And if you were to pot them up and your potting mix was very dry, then you want to make sure you add a little bit of water to it, but not too much. In this box here are the rhizomes that together we overwintered last fall, and I'll be potting these up today. And here is a bag of Calla Lily rhizomes that I recently purchased. They're actually kind of expensive. It says here that there are 5 rhizomes in this bag, and it was $15. That's why it's so important to be able to save your Calla Lilies year after year if you can't keep them in the ground over the winter months. So what I'm going to do right now is take you in for a closer look, and I'll show you my process for just basically pre-sprouting these. So what I have here is just, again, a shallow tray, and this is called a 10 by 20 tray. I use it indoors for seed starting, but you can use whatever you want for a pre-sprouting tray. Now this tray does not have drainage holes in it because I'm not planning on putting a lot of water in this mix here. So I'm not worried about that. Normally you would want drainage holes if you're going to put something for pre-sprouting that needs a lot of water, but this will not have a ton of water in it, so there are no drainage holes in there. And here's a small little cardboard box where I stored my calla lilies during the winter months. It's a giveaway when it's starting to sprout to know where the top is, but sometimes when you buy the rhizomes, they're not sprouting. And so then the question is, how do you know which one's the top and which one's the bottom? A lot of times the bottom is more smooth, and you can see that it's not as bumpy, whereas the top is almost like little tiny craters, and that's the giveaway that that's the top part of your rhizome. Here's another example, and you can see that there are even little babies being formed on the side. I'm not going to remove them. I'm going to keep them on there, but if you wanted to, you could divide them up. Again, there's the bottom, and there's the top. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add potting mix to the bottom of this tray. And you can see it's pretty wet. And it's just enough to cover the bottom, because eventually what's going to happen is the rhizomes are going to start creating roots. So we want to make sure that we have some potting mix in the bottom for those roots. And all we're going to do is we're just going to take each of the rhizomes and we're going to place them in. In case you're wondering what color they are a mix of like a reddish maroon color as well as a light yellow color. They're very pretty. Some of them have not started sprouting yet. So again, I'm looking for the smoother side, and I'm putting that down there. If you've been throwing away your calla lily rhizomes each year, definitely don't do that. Start saving them. I like to save them in a cardboard box because it takes up a lot less room. But I know that you can also just keep them in a pot and put them somewhere where it doesn't freeze, like in your basement or in the garage. And they've been in dry peat moss all winter. And I just check them once a month to make sure that they were not rotting. This little tiny one, I'm not sure where the bottom is and where the top is. It's just hard to tell. And I'm not even sure if it's going to sprout. So we're just going to place it in there, and I'll be checking on it, because what will happen is if it is going to sprout, once it gets planted out into a bigger pot, I'll make sure I plant that little guy the right way. And what's nice is I can take the peat moss that's in here and I can just add it to one of my raised beds or potting mix or anything like that. So I don't have to waste that. And when it comes to the cardboard box, now I can recycle it. It's all good. And here's the mix of the calla lilies that I bought for this year. They're very pretty. They're a little different. And that's a close-up of what the calla lilies look like that I bought from the store. You can see that they have not started sprouting yet. And again, you can see that that's going to be facing upwards. That's the top. And there's the bottom. I'm going to place these on this side here, just so I know that the side that has the least amount are the ones that I bought. I could label them too if I wanted to. Just add a tag. The next step is just to cover these. And again, I'm just going to barely be covering these, but I want to make sure that they do have soil on top of them. I'm gently pushing down. And there you go. It's a very simple process. Now, one thing that I didn't do last year, but I'm going to do this year because it's still kind of cool outside, and calla lilies like it warmer, is I'm going to add a humidity dome just to seal in a little bit of that heat. Now, if I find that it's getting a little too hot in there during the daytime, I can definitely remove this. And I'm just placing it on here. And since this is going to be left on my outdoor rolling cart, where I basically bring it out during the day and then during the nighttime, I bring it back indoors, I don't want this to fly off. So I will probably either put some sort of a rock on here, or I can tape this down. So I'll definitely be doing that. And they do like it warm. So if you want to pre-sprout them and bring them indoors, you can definitely do that. I will not be doing that because I have a lot of other seedlings that I've started indoors, and I don't want this to take up room indoors. And since I'm hardening off plants outdoors, I figured that it's perfect for me to put these out on that rolling cart. Now remember, the key is to water sparingly. You don't want to rot the rhizomes. Once they start really sprouting and they start getting their leaves on there, at that point, that's when I'm going to pot these up. I'm going to take these out of here and I'm going to put them into a larger pot. I still have a month to go before I can plant them outdoors, so I'll be babying them for a while, but it's so well worth it. And when it comes to fertilizing them, I'll be fertilizing them with a liquid fertilizer once a month during the summer months. And also I'll be deadheading them, meaning I'll be cutting off their spent blooms. But I'll be showing you those steps in future videos, so be on the lookout for that. And that's it when it comes to waking up my calla lily rhizomes. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.